Say hi.
Hi.
Hey, Declan. Say hi. Say hi. Hey guys, it's been crazy. 2020 has been a year so far. First, on February 25th, I found out that my grandfather passed away, and I was just devastated. It's not news that you want to hear. And then I tried to be upbeat and stay positive, you know. Then on the 26th, I had little Miss Cassidy, and that just was amazing. Just in and of itself, it was just a good thing. And then yesterday happened. Yesterday was not a good day. It started off like any other. I had been sleeping downstairs so that Sean could get sleep, and so that he was refreshed for the day and stuff like that. I wanted to make sure that he got the sleep he needed in order to go to school and to understand everything that he needed to, so like sleep deprivation didn't prohibit his learning, because we have put everything on the line for him to go back to school and to do dental school, and I would hate for him to not be able to do that because he couldn't sleep. So I slept downstairs, and he got a good night's sleep upstairs, you know. He came downstairs, ate his breakfast, did everything, you know. The kids were up, we were watching TV, and I was nursing Cassidy, and he goes out to the car to go to school. So at 8:30 in the morning, I go upstairs right after he had walked out the front door, kissed him goodbye, you know, and I hear this big, huge bang. And I'm sitting there, you know, what was that? So I look out the window and I see people, and I'm like, okay. So I go downstairs, and I had this thought to tell Sean to take the Nissan. So my first reaction was to look out the window to see, did Sean take the Nissan? And the Nissan was parked in the driveway. He was not in the Nissan. And so I go to the front door, and I open the front door, and I see our car, and I see another car, and another car, and my instant thought is dread. So I am literally in pajama tops, a shirt, like no bra, milk stains, bare feet. Cassidy is in her little swing, the kids are on the couch watching TV, and I run outside to our car that is sideways in the road, and traffic is stopped both ways. And so I rush to our car, I open the passenger side door, and my first visual is blood. Not something that you want to wake up to and start your day off in the morning. So I see blood. There's blood on the windshield. There's blood all down my husband's shirt. It's all over his face. There's blood in the passenger seat. There's a pile of blood in between, like the console in between the seats. So like in that middle area where you put your drinks. And my husband is not there. I say, Sean, he does not respond. I run back inside and grab a thing of paper towels because I need to see where this blood is coming from. The other guy is calling 911, the guy that crashed into him. He's calling 911 and he's talking and saying that there's blood everywhere. And so I know that he has that handled, so I don't have to worry about that. And my husband comes to when I go back out there with the paper towels. And he starts like dabbing his face. And he dabbed his nose, and there's this big, huge slice down his nose. And I see white, which means stitches. I see cartilage. His forehead is bleeding. His eye is... has like a little cut right there. He has a cut on his cheek right there. And my instant thought is like, you know, coming back, I'm like, oh my goodness, he probably has a brain injury. Like, he had passed out. There's probably swelling going on. I'm sitting there trying to keep calm because he was awake and he's like, oh my goodness, I'm bleeding. And he didn't really remember how it happened, but he knew he was in an accident. The guy, we hear sirens. We live like 4 minutes away from the hospital and everything, so it hadn't been honestly too long since the guy hung up. We heard sirens. The police are all like swarming. There's like about 6 police cars, and they close off the roads because this guy had been, whatever. So the ambulance arrives and they literally have to pry open his door because the door is completely jammed in. And so they help him out. They check and make sure like his neck is okay first, but they help him out, and I'm sitting there. I was just in shock. And I look back to my door, and both of my kids are standing there watching this happen outside of our front door. And it was, oh my goodness, it was horrible, guys. It was horrible. So I go and I tell the kids, like, everything is okay. Daddy got in an accident and there's a boo-boo, but he's okay. We're gonna take care of it. And I call my mom. My mom lives about 20 to 30 minutes away from us, and she's closest out of all family. So I call her and I tell her, hey, I need you here. My husband's been in an accident. Sean's been in an accident. There's a lot of blood. I'm not sure what's gonna happen, but he's in the ambulance right now. Can you come watch the kids or something? I need some help. So my mom said yes. She got in her car and immediately started coming on her way. And I went back to Sean. The kids were just standing there. I don't think they really knew what was happening, but I couldn't convince them to watch TV again. They were fascinated by all the police, and Daddy had a boo-boo, and they could see the blood from there because it was all over. He was wearing a white shirt. It was all down his white shirt. So I go out. I'm trying to find our insurance information and our registration, everything, so that we can get, the cops were trying to talk to me. I'm trying to be with my husband. It was a nightmare, guys. So finally he could not respond what day it was, but he was like refusing to be taken in the ambulance. And I literally just had a baby last week. And so everything is really hectic. I keep running to check on my kids. I keep going to answer questions for cops. Finally, they're just like, we need to take him to the hospital. And I said, you need to do what you need to do. Like, I will meet him there. Because at that point, my mom still hadn't shown up. Like, I need to be with my kids. I have a newborn, there's no neighbors that I trust, so we, we, sent him off in the ambulance, which was one of the hardest things for me to do. Watching your husband, not knowing, he's going to need stitches, but with the laceration on his forehead right there, and you don't know, like, I've worked in the emergency room, brain injuries, there's, how hard did he get his head hit? The guy that hit him was distracted and did not see him because he was texting. Yeah, texting and driving, guys. Please don't ever do that. This could have been prevented very easily if the guy had been paying attention. So, Sean gets taken away in the ambulance, and several minutes later, my mom shows up. And I'm going to leave it at that, because I do have to go right now. I am going to come back here in a few minutes, finish my story, and maybe give you a visual of how Sean looks the day after. So, we will talk to you later, and I'm ending this right here. Okay, so I started an update yesterday and I didn't finish it. I believe I left off with my mom arriving at the house. So I'm just gonna pick up from there. My mom came and I was trying to get stuff out of the car so they could tow it. And I was dealing with insurance. I had called somebody for some help with that, and by this time my phone is like, people are texting me already, and I honestly had no idea what was going on still, and it was just, I was very overwhelmed, and I was in shock by what had happened. And so my mom was there, and I literally was like, he's at the hospital, I need to go and be with him. And of course, like, I have my newborn and my kids and everything, and I told my mom, like, I had just pumped this morning, so I showed her where I had left the milk, and the kids were kind of still eating and everything and watching TV again. Thank goodness they kind of went back to that, because I had gone inside and both of my kids were crying because they had seen that Daddy was hurt and they were freaking out. And I know that they were just had no idea what was going on, and I know that they were worried. So I pretty much do this really quickly. Like, my mom is all prepared. She's ready to go. I love her. She is a lifesaver, honestly. She has been so much help with my kids, with my newborn, coming and watching them while I was in the hospital for that. And now this, especially because there's so much stuff going on with everybody else. And I just was so grateful that she took the time, especially in such short notice, to come and watch my kids while I head to the hospital. So I leave and I go to the hospital, and I arrive to the emergency room, and my husband isn't there in his little bed area room that they had closed off for him. And I was like, oh my goodness, where is he? And they're like, oh, they took him up for a head scan, like CT CAT scan, because of his brain. They wanted to make sure, no swelling was going on, or if so, like, precautions. And that was what I was worried about. But I was waiting there for like 10 minutes, I just worrying, and kind of coming off of an adrenaline rush, and trying to take in and think clearly, and dealing with paperwork that they started having me file and fill out, and he got rolled back into his room, and he was very, very, very out of it. I have asked him, and he honestly doesn't remember anything, which I'm so grateful for. But they had cleaned most of the blood off of his face, and he was still actively bleeding though. And that was head injuries do bleed more than a lot of other injuries, just because there is so much blood being pumped to your brain, and it's just very sensitive area. This is you got to protect this, and when something is hurt, your body goes into overdrive a little bit. So he had come back from the head CT. They were going to give us the results as soon as the doctor took a look at them. And I was kind of asking him questions, seeing what he remembered, seeing, like, so I could start filling out stuff. And I was talking to doctors, and they were giving me information. He had his nose sliced open, like I said in the previous video, and he had a slice on his forehead. This cut was okay, and his eye was okay. They were so surprised that his eye was not damaged at all. He still has good vision as far as anything that happened during the accident. So the emergency room doctor sutured his head wound right there, and that was just bleeding profusely as he was doing that. And oh my goodness, it was just so much going on. And then he said he does not dare touch the nose because his nose was broken, and he needed reconstructive surgery on it because of the way that it sliced open, and the cartilage was showing, and all of the like fatty tissue substance in your nose that you don't really know that you have, but there is this layer of tissue that is very sensitive, and if it is not sewn up properly, you can get very varying looks. If it's not done correctly, it won't look right. And so with that break, and then we got the head CT scan back, and he has a concussion, and so there was that going on, but everything was looking good considering what had just happened. Like, it could have, and they were so surprised that it wasn't so much worse because of the angle at which he was hit and the speed of the car, and the airbag did not deploy in our car, and so his head slammed into the steering wheel, and so it is an old car, 1993, but it should have been so much worse because of all of the variables that happened when they did. And so we are so grateful that he didn't have a severe brain injury. We are so grateful that they were able to stop the bleeding with his head injury. He did lose a lot of blood, but again, everything should have been so much worse than it was that I feel like we were definitely blessed to have him be able to get into surgery right after we had this happen. So he did go to surgery to have his nose sewn up, and then just that there was no lasting brain damage. There's memory loss that has been going on, and it is now 2 days after the accident. So we're so grateful that he's here with us still. And so back to the emergency room, we got all of the papers. There was an officer that came. We had to deal with that. And then we had to deal with surgery. So they let me go in on the surgery with him, and I was able to watch and take pictures as they fixed his nose. And we had an amazing doctor. They're called, oh my goodness, an orthomaxillofacial surgeon. And they have a dental degree, so they've done dentistry, but then they take another 4 years and do everything that deals with the face. So it's very specialty specific. So we got the best of the best, and I'm so grateful for that. And he did up his nose, and they did just local anesthesia. But even then, I was holding my husband's hand, and it was so painful for him because we didn't want to put him under for it, and just because that's so much more money. And both him and I didn't think it was necessary. He mostly didn't think it was necessary. I would have been just like, knock him out. But I wanted to support my husband, and he does have a high pain tolerance, but I've never seen him in that much pain in my life. And I wish for everything that I had, I could have been in his place instead of watching. That was the hardest thing that I've ever had to do. And at this point, while he was in surgery, my phone is being blown up. And I honestly still am trying to wrap my head around what had happened. And I have so many people that were bombarding me, and very unkindly, just making it about not my feelings and not Sean's feelings, and not the fact that I'm a brand new mom again with 2 kids who just experienced one of her worst nightmares. That was one of my worst nightmares. And updating people is definitely not at the top of my list. My priority was my husband and my kids, making sure that everything was going right. And so I believe that there were some hurt feelings out there, and that was not my intention. But I was very frustrated with certain things that went down. Because in the hospital, my phone does not receive reception. So I didn't get a lot of these, a lot of things until after. And I'm trying to update as I find out information. So that was I was so overwhelmed. I was just so overwhelmed between my shock, my initial shock, and so much going on with others, and trying to make sure that my kids were okay and staying calm, and that Sean was staying calm. And so it was just very overwhelming. And honestly, he was so out of it and didn't want to deal with anything that was going on. The best thing that could have happened for him was to go home and rest, but that didn't happen. Excuse me. And so it's just been constant for these past couple of days. Just, there have been so many people that have helped everything. With meals and just making sure we're okay. And there's been a lot of stress along with this too, that I wish I could just make disappear, honestly. I wish these stressful things would just go away. But when it comes down to it, he was okay. My kids were okay. And I have literally not gotten sleep for over 72 hours now. It's been about 72 hours. I think I took like a 30-minute nap. But I'm too worried because with a concussion, you do have to check their pupils. You do have to see and look out for certain signs that something is going on. And you have to keep an eye out for infection with the wounds. And he has bruising. It turns out his leg was actually crushed in the door too, that they had missed. So his knee is, I'm pretty sure, sprained because of how badly it looks. So there's a bruise and everything. But they were so focused on his head injury that it didn't occur to them that his door, they didn't check. Honestly, they didn't check. And I didn't even think to check either. I feel so badly. But we were focused on, again, the head injury. So that is kind of the lowdown of what happened. He is home safe. He is doing as well as he could be. He has been a rock star throughout all of this. There has been a lot of memory loss between then and certain things that he has learned going to school, like with his chemistry classes and everything there. He's having a hard time remembering everything as far as the past couple of weeks have gone. So just some short term. He should expect to make a full recovery, which we are grateful for. He will have scarring, which is expected in this case. But after everything is all said and done, I feel like, have been, again, very, very blessed with the situation being as it is. And we're so grateful that it wasn't worse. But it's been an experience that I would never, ever want anybody to go through. And I can't believe people have gone through something like this and have had outcomes that are not the same. And my heart goes out to them because it is so difficult doing this together with my husband. I can't imagine doing it where he wouldn't be conscious or wouldn't be here with me, which could have been a very real possibility with the car accident. So that is where I'm going to end this. We are doing as well as could be in this situation, and we're taking it step by step, and we're just focusing on ourselves right now, and our babies, and my husband is my top priority, and my kids are my priorities. And I'm just going to end it there. But hopefully we'll give another update soon. I know this one was a very long vlog, and I would not be surprised if most of you had quit by now. So, but that is very detailed of kind of what went down, and I'll have pictures after this so you can see kind of everything that happened. So graphic warning ahead. There are some very graphic pictures in here at the end of this, so if you do not want to see, I would end now. Thank you for all of your guys' support and prayers as we've gone through everything the past several weeks. Thanks.